Hi, my name is Cameron Four, and in today's video, I'm going to walk you through understanding why you should use the Telegraf agent to help you monitor your Horizon management infrastructure. We'll talk about how you deploy the Telegraf agent, how to configure it, how to validate your settings, and then we're going to review some dashboards where the Telegraf agent shows you valuable data around monitoring your Horizon management servers like connection servers and UAGs, so you can get additional value in making sure that those services are up and running. So with that, let me pull up my dashboard. Let's first take a look at what is the Telegraf agent, how do you deploy it, then I'll kind of get into what are the various things that it's offering. So if you come under Environment, Applications, you'll notice that there's a section under Applications called Manage Telegraf Agents. So at a bare minimum, what Telegraf is an agent that you install and push to your Horizon infrastructure management servers. More specifically, the servers that we're really targeting for the deployment of the Telegraf agent are your connection servers and unified access gateways. Now, in our environment, we actually have it deployed to more than that. We actually have it deployed to not only our UAGs and connection servers, but we also have it deployed to our app volume servers. And the reason that we're doing this is that we're actually leveraging the Telegraf agent to provide us some additional health checks around the actual services running on these management server components. So if we look at this particular UAG, we'll see that I have the agent is installed and running, and you'll notice that I have two particular services configured. The first service is the HTTP health check, and what this is doing is this allows me to query the local services that are running within the UAG, and it will basically give me a status and let me know, is the UAG services, is it actually passing its health check, and is it giving me a clear status? So the response code that I would expect back for doing the health check is a 200. And if I get anything like a 400 or 500, I know that something is either misconfigured, which is typically true with the 400 status, or the services are no longer responding, which is what a 500 status is referring to. So again, the value here is that in addition to just using the Horizon APIs, we also have the ability to use a secondary agent talking to the Horizon services running on the UAG and connection servers to query the service and see if it's still responding in an appropriate manner. Now, in terms of the manufacturer Horizon, I'll kind of show you what that looks like in just a moment. But really what that's doing is it allows us to visualize and alert on when these services are failing. Now, your question might be, well, doesn't the Horizon API provide me similar information? Yes, the API does tell you if the services are up or down, but it's not necessarily as good as doing the external health check, because the health check, it's really validating that the APIs are responding appropriately. So imagine, right, you're building a service or you're building any type of web solution, and let's say that you have a problem with that solution itself, and that the APIs that are being hosted on that within that service are no longer functioning properly. The problem that we have is we can get into situations where the API might say everything is healthy, but if we actually look at what the health check is saying, because again, it's a service from outside of the Horizon service, it gives us the ability to double check and say, okay, well, are you really healthy, right? So it's a better way to actually validate that the services are up and running, because it's a better witness to the service and allows us to just get additional clarification that the APIs are responding appropriately. Now, beyond the health checks, we also do ping checks. So the ping checks will also provide us additional value, because basically what these are doing is they allow us to monitor network connectivity from our UAGs and our connection servers to any networking target that we deem important that we want to monitor the availability and performance to. Now, why would you use this? So the best example I can give you is, let's say that you have your UAGs deployed in your DMZ, and you have your connection servers deployed within your internal network. And you're trying to verify that the route that the users are coming through, again, just imagine all your users are coming from your outside of your network. They're going to come through your UAG, they're going to traverse your DMZ, they're going to traverse various routes across your network, and eventually hit the connection server. So if you wanted to make sure that there was no latency or packet loss that was significantly impacting the users across that entire network, then effectively what you need to do is leverage this ping check. Because the ping check, what it's going to do is it's going to, from the UAGs, the connection service is basically going to ping whatever route or networking target that's important to you that you want to monitor performance to, and it's going to check its availability. So if there's ever any packet loss, or if there's ever any time that the connection server can't, communicate to your most external gateway, if there's a problem with any increased latency on the network that you're not aware of, enabling this ping check will basically give you visibility into these scenarios. And again, I'm going to show you this in better detail when we get to the dashboards. So again, what Telegraf is doing is providing us service health checks, and it's providing us information about networking availability from the UAGs and from the connection servers. Now, in this environment, as I mentioned, I also have it installed on one of the app volumes managers. And in this case, what it's doing is, even though we don't have a specific management pack for app volumes at this time, it still gives us the ability from operations to check the AV managers to make sure that they're passing their health checks as well. So it's a great way to check your AV managers, make sure they're healthy. And if you have any AV managers that are failing health checks, again, it's letting you know those services are no longer functioning. So I've had different videos that kind of goes into explain all these details. I'm not going to do that just now at the moment, but I'll get into more how to set it up in a little bit later in this video. So let's take a look at how this information is being gathered and really how you go about deploying this. So the first thing that you're going to need, if you go into data sources, cloud proxies, you will need a cloud proxy deployed in your environment. If you do not have a cloud proxy installed, when you go to manage Telegraf agents, you'll notice that there's no option to do an installation. So the very first thing you'll need to do is you'll need to deploy a cloud proxy, get it up and running, get it configured on your network. And once operations detects that your cloud proxy is available and is online, they'll then be able to go to environment, applications, manage Telegraf agents, and you'll be able to see the full list of VMs available to you. Now, the VM list here is really coming from your vCenter adapter. So vCenter adapter does some data sources integrations. So whatever vCenters you have tied to operations, these are going to be the only VMs that are available to us to push Telegraf to. So if for some reason that your management cluster for your connection servers and UAGs are on a different vCenter, you need to make sure that they're actually added in this operations instance. So not only can we talk to the operations management cluster, or sorry, for your Horizon management cluster, but we can also talk to your Horizon workload vCenter. So that's where your desktops and other resources are going to be located. So all of them really need to be in operations because we talk to both your management VMs as well as your Horizon workload VMs, which will be your RDS host and VDI desktops. Now, once they are there, we'll then be able to come back to environment applications, manage Telegrafs, and if you know the name of your servers, you can search for them. You can find the servers that you want to do the installation to, and you'll notice that there's a checkbox that you can select where you want to install the agent from within operations. We click Agent Actions Install. And this is where it's going to walk you through a wizard to do the installation. Now, the biggest tips I can give you here is that for your Windows virtual machines, this is going to require that you have an account that has basically Active Directory permissions to do an install with inside of Windows, right? So this would be your domain / your admin account, whatever it may be, and your admin password that has the ability to do that installation. Now you'll see a checkbox here. This really only applies to Linux virtual machines. Doesn't really matter if you leave it checked or unchecked for Windows VMs, but you can just uncheck it if it makes you feel better, and then click Next. And this will basically confirm which virtual machine targets that operations will attempt to push the install to. Now, given that these are Windows virtual machines, if you have on UAC enabled within the Windows operating system, that will need to be temporarily disabled to get the agent to install. Otherwise, even though operations have the correct permissions to do the installation, the UAC will still kind of defeat operations' ability to install it. So go to these servers, temporarily disable UAC. You can run a PowerShell script to do it. You can do a remote PowerShell script to do it, depending on your environment and how you want to disable it. And then run the install, click install agent. And once it's completed and you see that the agents are online, then you can go back and re-enable UAC on those particular servers. Now, the agent's already installed here, so I'm not going to click through this, but that's basically the process to get it installed into your Windows Connection Server VMs. Now, the other ones will be UAGs. And the UAGs, because they're Linux machines, they're a little bit more complicated. I'll have to provide a linked documentation on how you go about doing it. But for the most part, what you need to do is you'll go into the console of each of these UAGs, and you're enabling, I think there's a temporary folder path that's like etc/temp. You have to enable you have to enable read writes on that directory so that operations, when it tries to push that directory, it can do the install. There is a KB on how to do it, and again, I'll link to that later on. But basically, that's the trick with UAGs. You will have to enable the ability for that temporary directory to accept operations to push and install files from that directory. Now, once you do that, again, you'll select it just like before, but instead of providing a domain credential, this is where you'll provide whatever root account and password that you have on the UAGs. And again, as long as it has the right permissions, it should do the installation. And keep in mind, you will have also needed to fix the permissions on the temporary directory that operations will attempt to use during the Telegraf install. So I'm going to cancel this. Now, just like with your connection servers and UAGs, actually, let me switch this. I'm going to switch my filters so it kind of shows me everything all at once. So once I have all my agents up and running, then you'll have the option to come in and enable the services that you want. So these will all be grayed out. And again, these are additional services that you can enable as well. It's not like you have to be limited to what we're doing. You can do custom scripting, custom service monitoring. But primarily for the management pack, these are the only two we care about, so that's going to be the focus of this video. Now for the health check, you'll come in and you'll click the three dots and you'll click add. We already have one. I'll just kind of bring it up so you can see it. But for the most part, you'll just come in and put this as an HTTP check. You'll provide the URL. Now specific for UAGs and connection servers, I think they might be slightly different. Let me just confirm. Yeah, so if you look at the URL for the HTTP checks on the connection server, you're basically pointing it to itself. And then again, according to Horizon documentation, you use the /favicon.ico. That's really your full path for your connection server. The method that you're going to use is get, which should be in all capitals. And because again, you're running the command from a local host, or the agent's running on the host itself, just go ahead and skip chain verification, because again, you're really just talking to yourself in terms of certificates in communication. So once you've done that and you click save, in about 5 minutes or so, these should go green, but it really does take about 5 minutes for this thing kind of spin there for a while. And as long as you put in the URLs correctly, then you should be getting a 200 response code if the services are healthy. If you see a 400 type error code, it means that your path is wrong. So either Horizon isn't familiar with the path, or you mistyped something in the URL space. For the ping check, again, I mentioned this needs to be a target that is meaningful between the connection server or UAG and whatever network path you want to monitor. So again, this could be like, it could be like an internal DNS name of the gateway they enter. It could be an external DNS name of whatever FQDN they're hitting from the outside. If you're doing communications between buildings, in some cases you can ping the gateway of the hop between buildings that you want to monitor. It really just depends on what is it, what's the networking target that you want to monitor, and what's the performance that's most important to you. So if you're trying to determine if the building's unhealthy and the network to use bad, this could be helpful in those situations. If you're really just trying to determine Is your internal network for most of your services functioning properly? Again, you'll just have to decide what that IP that you use or leverage is. Now, to show you this specific example, this is kind of what we configured in this environment. I guess it's a demo environment, and we're actually pinging Google's DNS. So again, we just do that to provide some more colorful data because, you know, our connection to the Google DNS isn't always exactly the same. So it makes it more useful from a demo perspective. Now, that's really the target that we care about. The other thing that you can control is how many times it's going to do the ping request and what type of statistics do you want to get out. So I recommend doing at least a count of 10. You could do more if you want to, you can do less if you want to. But doing at least 10 count means that, you know, if the network's asleep or maybe just one packet happened to get dropped, but none of the other ones did, again, it just tries to give you a little bit more meaningful statistics. But for the most part, you can control this and put whatever counts meaningful to you. But that's really the only requirement there, is make it a meaningful target and put in at least a count of 10 and then click save. All right, for the UAGs, let's take a look. Again, the process to add a health check is exactly the same. In this case, the path we're using drops the favicon.ico extension. It probably would work with that as well. I need to double check the documentation, but I'm pretty sure it's the exact same path. And if you look at the app volumes manager that we have here, again, if you wanted to monitor your AV managers, here you can see that here it's not the favicon .ico, it's actually health_check. So its path is unique. So just kind of keep that in mind. Different Horizon services might use slightly different URLs in terms of monitoring performance. But again, the method's always going to be GUT capitals and skip post chain verification, because again, you're talking to yourself. Okay. Now, once we have all of this configured, how do we know that things are collecting properly? So a couple things that you can do. In terms of connection servers, you can type in connection, see Horizon connection server objects, you'll get a list of your connection servers. So wherever you have it actually installed, when you go to the connection server summary page, this is where you can validate that the health check is functioning properly. Now, had I just turned this on, it's going to take more than a minute or two. It could take 5 to 10 minutes before you get an actual value. But again, the two confirmation codes you're going to see is health check status is 200. Again, it should be green. And you'll see the overall response time of that request. And once you have this up and running, you can alert on this particular value if you want to. Again, it is definitely recommended, because this is, again, if it's a 500 or more status, it's going to alert you that the services are not functioning. And I don't recall, actually, I don't think as of 2.7, this is an out-of-box alert, but in the next release, that'll be 2.7.1, should be updated and have the, this as an out-of-box alert, but you'll still have to figure it as a notification. So there's a lot of alerts that are included within the Magic Pack, but until you're actually sent it as a notification to an SMTP server, a ticketing system, or email, that alert's only found within the platform. So this is where it's really important to turn on notifications for alerts that you actually want to get, so that if you're not staring at the console, you'll be notified that, hey, something's wrong. Now, UAGs work the same way, so you can type in like Unified Access Gateway. You'll see the object type. You'll see a list of gateways. I'm going to pick the top one here. And again, this is going to confirm that I have not only the path correct, but the service is in a healthy state. So again, I want to see 200. And again, that's letting me know that the Horizon services are responding appropriately. And for the app-vol servers, let's see, how many do I have? Actually, I don't remember the name of them. So one other interesting feature of operations is you can kind of create these business applications. So again, there's no Magic Pack for app volumes, but you can come in, You can create your own application called App Volumes. You can include the vCenter servers, the AV managers that respond to it. And here you notice that I also have the HTTP health checks on the AV managers installed as well. So this basically allows me, if I want to create like a custom dashboard to monitor App Volumes, I can do that, and any alert related to the AV managers would populate on that dashboard. So, all right, so it's WDC APVL into. All right, so this will let me find the health checks that I have installed. And again, once I have it collecting appropriately, I should be able to come to the metrics under the App Vault managers, and I can validate the response code. In fact, you can see that it has historical values. You got 60 days of data. Yeah. And you can see at one point in time, it did fail. So it did get a 502 error code, and that would have alerted me that this particular AV manager was down. So again, that's really the purpose behind getting Telegraf installed on your management service. It allows us to properly monitor, are the services that are running, are they valid, are they healthy? And when they're not, this is exactly when you would want to get that type of alert to let you know that, hey, this particular component within my Horizon service is down. Now, in terms of dashboards, again, validating that data is populating everywhere. So if we come under Home, Horizon Overview, this is one easy way to get to the Horizon World Operations Overview dashboard. You could also have navigated the tree here. You could come under Horizon, scroll all the way down, and come that way. But the tiles are a nice, convenient way. So it's meant to be more guided from a UI perspective. So when you first log into operations, it'll take you to the home screen. The home screen will show you the Horizon tile. And then just clicking on the operations overview, it should populate for you. So what am I being shown now that I have the agents installed and configured? So under the dashboard, you'll notice that under UAG and connection server, we have these HTTP health check responses. Basically, what I'm looking for here is I'm making sure that these donut charts are solid green. If I see any part of this chart that's bright red, that lets me know that at least one of my UAGs is in a failed service state. And again, this is where you would want to go to that particular UAG. You can either restart it or just try to restart the services to try to recover them. But again, the goal is to keep both your connection servers and UAGs in a healthy service state. And if these ever show bright red, that means those services are down and you need to take immediate action so that you don't have some type of impact on your Horizon pod that could cause an outage. Now, in terms of the ping checks, these will show up under the UAG net performance to router and connection server net performance router chart. So what these are actually doing is this gives us basically a timeline of how our network has performed over time. So this particular line right here is actually showing me what does my latency look like in general coming from my UAGs and connection servers to that Google DNS that we configured. So ideally, you're not using Google's DNS, you're using an internal networking target that makes more sense for you. But again, this allows me to visually see that, hey, it looks like on average, we're only 8 milliseconds of latency between our UAGs and connection servers and the Google's DNS that we're pinging. Now you'll see these couple spikes as well. So if I go over these spikes, what are these spikes? Let me zoom in a little bit. So these spikes are moments in time where we actually have packet loss in the network. So again, we're seeing 10% packet loss. Recall that I put in a 10 count of pings. So 10% of 10, that means at least one of my pings failed to hit the Google DNS server when I attempted to ping it. So in this case, right, it's letting us know that those packet drops did occur. Now, typically in a troubleshooting scenario, what we're looking for is more something sustained, something more indicative of an actual problem. Particularly if it's internal. If you have an internal networking target that you're pinging and you ever see packet loss, that's usually a red flag that something's wrong. But more importantly, this gives you additional information that you can take to your networking team and say, hey, what's going on? Why are we seeing either really high latency or really high packet loss on the network? Now we've included these lines, these are kind of like warning lines to kind of let you know that, hey, either your latency or packet loss reached a critical level. In this case, packet loss is 20%. So it's significantly higher than some of the other times in the past. And also if you have moments where you have increased latency on your internal network, you'll see those as well. And the same is true for connection servers, so it doesn't really work any different. So refresh, yeah, there goes. So again, trying to monitor my internal networking performance, I should be able to see, all of my connection servers, are they performing in a good state? And if we ever have issues or trouble on our network, we'll be able to visualize those types of issues and problems. It's also a good way to really just to make sure that you're not adding a lot of latency to your Horizon sessions coming in, right? So look at it as you're ruling out that if you see somebody's latency is really bad or poor, let's say it's 250 milliseconds, you need to make sure that your network isn't adding 200 milliseconds, right? If you add 8 milliseconds to their 250, well, okay, 8 of that is yours, okay? And that could potentially be improved. But ideally what you're trying to do is just rule out that you're not causing their problem. So again, if you see that their networking is 250 milliseconds, your network is 8 milliseconds of that. So of that the total round trip, 242 milliseconds is theirs. The 8 to get to 250 is additional that you're adding to it. So that's really what those numbers are meant to do. Now, other places that you'll see these metrics being used, particularly from the connection services, you'll also see them on your VDI pools. So I come down to my VDI pools. Here I can sort them by performance. You'll see like who has the worst data center versus networking KPIs. Let's see, if you add them here, I guess I didn't add them on this page. Have it right here. All right, so if we go to a particular pool, in this case, I'm going to pick the discovery pool because that's the one that gets leveraged the most. And once the pool loads, we'll see that we have a widget called pod route performance. So this is basically looking at what's the average amount of latency that your connection servers as an entire pod is seeing to that Google DNS address. So on average, we're seeing 0% packet loss, 8 milliseconds of latency. This allows me to confirm at the pool level how much of the the overall latency and packet loss for the Horizon sessions coming in, how much our network is adding to them. So again, it's the exact same use case except it's done at the pool level. The other place you'll see this is also on the Horizon pod. So if you go to the Horizon pod and you load the pod summary page, you'll also see the pod performance to route metrics here as well. So again, it's going to look at average latency, worst latency, average, and worst packet loss. So again, this is looking across all of your connection servers that is talking to that networking target and confirming for that pod, what's the overall internal network connectivity latency and packet loss. And again, in some certain cases, you might want to alert on these metrics at the pod or the pool level. But really, again, it's mostly meant to just confirm that your connection servers and UAGs aren't really having communications on your internal networks, because those are the Horizon services that your users are leveraging. So that's really all I have for today's video in terms of Telegraf, how to deploy it, how to configure it, what is it being used for, how to confirm that it's collecting properly. Again, if you come in and see that these are blank, that means that your connection servers don't have this configured. The same is true on the the Horizon dashboard that we were leveraging. So again, coming in through the tiles, it'll take us to the Horizon overview dashboard. Working's a little slow. So again, if the ping checks aren't configured, then the UAG net performance, CS net performance, those will not have data. They'll be blank. They'll just be you'll see the box, but there won't be any data within them. And if you don't have the HTTP checks configured, again, these particular widgets will also show blank, and you won't see any data there. So again, that's just a great way to confirm if they're configured properly. Now, if you misconfigured the URLs for the UAG of the connection servers, instead of red or green, you're going to have orange. So orange will basically flag anything that has a 400 type response code, which usually just means the URL is wrong. So go fix the URL and you should be okay. And again, you can reference the URL links that we had at the beginning of the video to kind of confirm what those paths are, but it's also in our Horizon documentation, so it's not like you have to get them in this video. It's just but this video is just a simple way to make sure you have everything configured appropriately. All right, again, well, that's all I have for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate any useful feedback. If you would like more videos like these and on any particular topics that you would like me to cover, please just leave feedback in the comments and let me know. Thank you.